Hey, do you hear that? That, my friends, is the sound of deja vu. Yet again, I'm off to the distant past to dig up the old skeletons of the past and invite them out for tea. So let's look at some skeletons, shall we? Introduced by Pandemic Studios and published by the original THQ, the Destroy All Humans series was never the most successful or the most critically acclaimed, but it was a modest success that remained beloved long after THQ had shuffled off this mortal coil. In the series, a wisecracking, sadistic alien named Crypto and his handler Pox invade the Earth on the behalf of the Furon Empire, seeking to destroy all the humans for fun and profit. But along the way, they get sidetracked with a lot of other issues and end up having to deal with far more than they'd bargained for. The series lets you use psychic powers and sci-fi alien weapons to mess with people throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s in various miniature sandbox levels. And it was a great time. Does it all hold up? Well, in this series, I'm planning to take a look at THQ's original 4 entries into the series, 1, 2, Big Willie Unleashed, and Path of the Furon, hoping to see what works and what doesn't in these alien romps of yesteryear. So join me, won't you? Pandemic Studios and THQ first began the Destroy All Humans series with the titular original game in 2005. Set in 1959, it goes down something like this. Cryptosporidium 136 crash lands on the Earth and is captured by the American Army. His successor, 137, discusses the situation with Orthopox 13, and Pox tells him that they have to go back to the Earth to save him and finish what 136 started. Now, what did he start exactly? Oh, only the Furon invasion of Earth. Yeah, as it turns out, the Furons have a pretty brutal history of using nukes to exterminate opposing alien civilizations. As a side effect, their people lack genitalia and can only reproduce via cloning. However, all of this cloning means that their DNA banks have been degrading. Where does the Earth fit into this?
Well, I'll tell you.
Ancient Furons long ago spent some shore leave on the Earth after nuking the Martians right in their existence, and after using their packages to make, certified deposits. This left a strand of pure, unedited Furon DNA within the human genetic code. So, by getting human DNA, the Furons can improve their gene pools and make themselves better again. So, Crypto needs to go to the Earth and steal brain stems. Seems legit. Well, obviously, the humans aren't really into this whole stealing your brainstem thing. The Red Scare is in full force here, and the game has a lot of fun at the expense of the overly paranoid government officials of real-life 1950s America. But from almost the very beginning, the government's top-secret men in black, an agency called Majestic, are aware of the Furon menace and are working to deal with it. Later, Armquist, the army general who happened to have been overseeing the tests that caused 136's demise, also gets involved in things. After a very brief visit to Turnip Seed Farm, Crypto makes his way to Rockwell, where he levels the local fair and impersonates the town mayor in order to bluff the gullible community into believing that this whole thing
This was all just a random series of suspiciously coincidental yet easily rationalized events.
In the process, the Furons discover another big city, sunny Santa Modesta. Crypto makes his way there and does things the Crypto way. And now the war is truly on, as Crypto is now aware of Majestic as well. He hoists them by their own petards. Their plan to mind control humans in the area is stolen and used by the Furons themselves. Pox initially has Crypto bend some rabbit ear antenna to broadcast some Furon educational programming to the humans. But the signal's too strong and a bunch of people's heads go boom. After herding up the unfortunate tossed salads and scrambled eggs from this misadventure, Crypto then breaks up Majestic's racket of using scientists and fake diners to distribute mind control drugs to make the populace into a bunch of paranoid mindless drones. Anyway, He then abducts one of their guys in order to learn some stuff, and learn he did. Majestic has a mind control film presentation for the kids at Rockwell's Drive-In movie theater, and they've got some business going on at the military base in Area 42. Everyone's to rain on their parade. The dynamic duo crash Majestic's party at Rockwell, showing their own film, which has something for everyone. Finally, wrapping up affairs with Majestic in the town, they level Majestic's base after destroying 20 grand worth of their stuff. And then they enlist Anchorman Burt Wither to help them by doing a special broadcast to support them publicly while calling out the U.S. government for abusing their powers and suppressing liberties in the name of protecting the country. The broadcast sees Armquist attack with tanks, soldiers, and brand new mecha robots in an attempt to stop them. Predictably, that fails. Have I mentioned that you shouldn't try fighting the Furons yet? Now it's time to go to Area 42. Crypto finds his predecessor's body and has a rare moment of serious emotion.
How could intelligent creatures do this?
Destroying his predecessor's corpse and saucer to stop the U.S. government from getting anywhere with these resources, he then has to deal with a new issue related to the situation, as the military have been experimenting using Furon DNA from 136 to create mutant Majestic agents who, while they have the intelligence of a brick, make up for it by having psychokinetic powers of their own, being able to defend themselves against his abilities and even being able to temporarily stop him from using his abilities. He destroys some mutants and levels the facility that they were made in, and though this ultimately doesn't destroy all of the mutants, it certainly helps improve things a bit. Finishing up in Area 42, Armquist is watching a test of a new aircraft. Crypto hypnotizes the driver of a truck carrying a nuclear bomb in order to get him to drive it into the portion of Area 42 that Armquist is at to try to assassinate him. The bomb goes off and Crypto escapes, but unfortunately for him, so does Armquist. Armquist is recalled back to the capital city by Majestic's mysterious leader, Silhouette, and Crypto makes his way back to Santa Modesta for a moment to level that city, before then heading off to follow him. Unfortunately for him, a Tesla coil takes out his saucer and forces him to deal with repairing the saucer and getting the parts for his weapons while fighting the military and trying to escape from Uniontown. But this is a minor inconvenience. It's Crypto. He's back in order pretty shortly, eradicating the base in the process. Crypto makes his way to Capital City, infiltrates the Octagon, and finds out that Silhouette and the President have decided to have Armquist lead the entire military. So now he's got to go to Uniontown to get the other leaders of the various service branches on board with the plan. Crypto disguises himself as the general of the Navy and gets the other military leaders to shun Armquist entirely before then fighting Armquist to the death. Though Armquist won't go quietly, as he's the first real boss of the game up to this point, piloting his own custom mech suit. But of course, he's toast. Back to Capital City, Crypto decides to give the President the James Garfield treatment. The military tries to blow up Crypto's saucer, but Crypto stops that from happening. Now Crypto has to fight off various U.S. senators before they can vote on what to do with this situation.
Now that the president is dead, the human senators are voting for a new leader. The vote is agonizingly close.
Doesn't the vice president become president?
Just shut up and kill those senators before they get inside the Capitol!
Anyhow, with the vote ruined, Crypto has to clear the city of the Tesla coils, and finally, Silhouette calls for a negotiation, ostensibly to surrender control of the country to the Furons. However, not one to go quietly into that gentle night, Silhouette... Oh yeah, by the way, Silhouette's a lady. Anyway, Silhouette summons Robo-Prez, and Crypto has to dispatch it before confronting Silhouette and finishing things off with her once and for all at the Octagon. Which sounds like a UFC pay-per-view when you take that out of context, now that I think about it. Anyhow, with the leader of Majestic dead, Crypto and Pox have taken full control of the country, as Crypto now poses as the President of the United States. But this victory is bittersweet, as the Furons now know that the U.S. is not the only civilization on Earth to conquer, and to boot, Majestic are all over the place. Or to put it another way, there's a hook for a sequel. Finally, the Furon-in-Chief has set up machines all across the country, there to aid in mind-controlling the entire American populace into complying with them. And the credits roll with the Furons having a firm foothold in the United States of America. What's the gameplay like? Throughout the game, Crypto has a bunch of fun tools to deal with his problems. He can use his mind to lift people and things like they were a feather, along with being able to read thoughts, forcibly extract brains from humans, and hypnotize people into either distracting others or falling asleep. He's also got the holobomb, which allows him to disguise as a human and navigate through the levels without arousing any suspicion. But these cool powers can't last forever. Crypto's ability to concentrate on these abilities depends on his concentration meter. Bet you didn't see that one coming, did you? This meter drains as he uses his abilities, slowly refilling over time or refilling quicker when he scans thoughts. The thoughts are usually really weird comedic lines or references to pop culture, and I think they're a blast. But the concentration thing means that eventually you've heard all the funny thoughts and you're probably getting a little bit sick of them, just a wee bitty bit. On top of that, your powers need to be upgraded throughout the game in order to be more useful. The brains that you collect give you DNA, which you can pay Pox in order to upgrade your powers, gun, or saucer. Hold on to the DNA thing for a bit, we'll come back to that later. Crypto's got powers, but he's also got toys. The Zap-O-Matic is quite a blast. Zap some people with lightning and watch them dance for your amusement. The Anal Probe, which is a phrase I can't believe can possibly be said in a video that isn't going to be immediately demonetized, uses charged shots to, well, I think the footage speaks for itself. The Disintegrator Ray shoots fiery shots of, well, whatever they are, they burn things. Blow up cars, reduce people to skeletons, etc. Fun stuff. This has ammo that you'll need to refill from time to time, but it does great at handling enemy vehicles, and it has a pretty good supply of ammo to use overall. Finally, there's the Ion Detonator, which fires a grenade that can be manually detonated or left to blow up on its own if you're too lazy to hit the button a second time. This only gets a few blasts, so have fun scavenging for it. I found myself mostly relying on the Disintegrator Ray and the Zap-O-Matic to handle my enemies, since they were fairly easy to maintain and could do a lot to deal with groups of enemies efficiently, while the Ion Detonator ends up being best used as a last resort against tanks most of the time. The Anal Probe is the odd one out, only getting to be of use occasionally. Crypto has a jetpack, which, honestly, I just don't have much to say about the thing. It's kind of a piece of junk, honestly. It works, but it's kind of a pain sometimes. In fights, Crypto has a regenerating health shield a la Call of Duty, Halo, Borderlands, etc. There's a lot of times where I only ended up making it through a mission by sheer dumb luck, where the enemies just somehow missed me when it would have only taken someone sneezing on me to end my miserable existence, and it certainly kept me on my toes most of the time by the end. It's also got a flying saucer, because obviously little green...
am not green.
Gray men should have a flying saucer. The Death Ray is a classic laser beam straight out of Dr. Evil's air quotes. It recharges over time and melts stuff down, but it's pretty much replaced by the later weapons in terms of sheer power. The Abducto beam really doesn't get much use, as it's just a tractor beam to throw some stuff. You could play around with it, but it just didn't see much use for me. The Sonic Boom shoots a ball that blasts stuff away from it in an explosive radius, using the powers of space magic to make that happen. And finally, the Quantum Deconstructor, which is basically a mini-nuke. The Sonic Boom gets a decent stockpile of ammo, but the Deconstructor's ammo, justifiably, is small and hard to come by. Unlike Crypto, the Saucer has a finite health pool that must be restored by getting health pickups. I found myself dying a lot or coming very close to it in the Saucer missions because those missions just love throwing everything, including the kitchen sink and a few spitballs for good measure, at you, while spacing health pickups as very far away from things, forcing you to go out of your way and get sidetracked in the missions to avoid dying painfully. This even gave me trouble on It's a Wonderful Armageddon. It began to feel like some kind of sick cosmic joke, where every time I'd do a saucer mission, I'd die at least once on the mission because something would damage me enough to where I would need to flee and find a health pickup, only for me to explode violently inches away from the health pickup. It really began to get on my nerves by the end, and I found myself having much less fun than I'd like. While I'm whinging on about a hang-up that really doesn't matter that much, let me point out something I really didn't like. In between certain missions, the game stops your progress entirely and demands you go out and get more DNA before you're allowed to proceed any further. At one point, when your mind control in Santa Modesta goes completely foobar, the game even shoehorns that into a main mission. This frustrates me. If there's anything I relearned playing this game again for this review, it's that this game is actually pretty tough at times, and you're going to want to take this thing seriously by getting ready for it. But I just don't like this being the way that they went about it. The missions in this game span somewhere in the 5 to 15 minute range, usually. So things move along at a fairly brisk pace. Getting smacked hard with the grind wall feels almost like you're being punished for playing the short missions quickly. In a term, it's fake longevity. It's great to get upgrades for your stuff, but I don't like how this is the way they approached it, because that just kills the momentum of the game. And while it is still just brief, it's still an interruption, and it really could have probably been avoided by just better implementing DNA gathering in the main mission. The one good thing is that these actually let you do something of use with the anal probe, along with hunting down probe robots and completing races for DNA. The missions themselves generally follow a nice set of different formats. Some missions are simply crypto being crypto, raising hell in various ways. Others are all about using stealth to infiltrate, whether it's disguising yourself as Rockwell's mayor to trick the townspeople, using disguises to enter various facilities in complete incognito mode, or simply using the disguise to scout for information about your enemies. Some missions involve crypto defending a location from large groups of enemies, while others still involve using the saucer to destroy lots of buildings or enemies. Mostly you'll fight farmers and cops early on. The army can get pretty tough, with soldiers, tanks, and finally mechs, and Majestic is especially nasty. They've got the tankiest regular enemies in the game, very dangerous explosive weapons, and mutants that can disable your psychokinesis powers. In the air, you also get fired on by the tanks from earlier, plus anti-air guns and Tesla coils that do a lot of damage and give you a hard time. These enemies use something similar to GTA's Wanted level. When you first arrive in a level, the humans don't know you've entered, but as they become aware of you, things begin to escalate. First, there's general awareness, followed by police awareness, military awareness, and finally, Majestic awareness. In Area 42 and Capital City, the cops are completely replaced by Army soldiers and Majestic members, while Turnipseed Farm and Rockwell have shotgun-wielding farmers among the general civilian populace. Overall, it's fun to blast through these people with the various stuff at your disposal. But the madness is only going to escalate from here. But all around, I love it. This game is generally pretty fun to play, though I do hate the forced grinding, and I found myself having more issues than I'd like to admit with the later missions due to what felt like a really steep surprise climb in difficulty. And the concentration meter and the saucer's health issues left me too worried about micromanaging them to really just cut loose and have fun using them. Still, the story is simple but fun, the humor's great, the characters are memorable, and the sandbox gameplay, while small scale, is still fun. The foundation is laid very strongly for the series here, and there's seemingly nowhere to go but up for this series. As a whole, I love this game. Even with the hang-ups, I still think it's a worthy game all these years later. For the retro enthusiasts among you, THQ's original releases on the PS2 and Xbox are still available at very cheap prices. For the more modern Furons, THQ Nordic re-released the Xbox version for the Xbox One's backwards compatibility program, along with doing full 1080p remasters of the original 2 games on PS4. If you haven't played this, you're missing out. Nordic even seems to agree, as this game has a 2020 remake. But that is another vid for another time. For now, I guess all I've got left to say is this game is still a blast all these years later, and Memory Lane is a blast to walk down once again. I have to leave you now. I've spoken my piece, and I, for one, have welcomed my Furon overlords. So, next time, I'll be seeing you in the 60s.